Four different kinds of 100% exist inside the VA system, and they do not protect you equally. One of them is built to last for the rest of your life. The other three can shrink or disappear, and the rules that decide which kind you hold are already printed in your paperwork, sitting in a drawer somewhere in your house. Most veterans at 100% have never checked which kind is theirs. They see the number, they see the deposit, and they assume the story is over. The veterans who lose their rating almost always assume the same thing, and the four kinds pay exactly the same monthly amount, which is precisely why the difference stays invisible until the day it decides everything. In the next few minutes, I will walk you through all four kinds, show you exactly where your letter tells you which one you have, and give you the protection rules that decide how hard your 100% is to touch. Before the four kinds, one thing needs to be said plainly, because it is the reason this video exists. The VA reviews ratings. It schedules exams, it proposes reductions, and it does this every single day to veterans who believe their number was carved in stone. A reduction is not automatic, and it is not easy for them, and you have real legal protections on standing between your rating and a smaller check. But those protections only work for the veteran who knows which ones apply to him. What happens on this channel is simple. I read the fine print the VA counts on you skipping, and I turn it into things you can check tonight. Veterans who are subscribed find out where they stand before a review letter shows up. The ones who are not usually find out from the review letter. Hit subscribe, turn the bell on, and let's sort out which 100% you actually have. One more reason this matters right now rather than someday. The VA is in the middle of reworking its rating schedule. Reviews are a normal part of how the system runs, and every veteran who checks his kind tonight walks into that reality with his eyes open instead of finding out during a review he never saw coming. The first kind is the 100% scheduler rating. This is the classic version, where your conditions, alone or combined, add up to 100% under the VA's rating schedule. The money is the full monthly rate, and right now that is $3,938.58 for a veteran with no dependents. Here is what most people at this level never hear said out loud. A scheduler 100% on its own carries no promise about the future. If the VA believes your conditions have improved, it can schedule a review exam, and if that exam shows sustained improvement, the rating can come down. The number on the check says total. The paperwork behind it may still say temporary in spirit, and the difference lives in one designation we will get to in a moment. Picture a veteran rated 100% scheduler for a back condition and severe migraines 3 years ago. Nothing about his money looks fragile. But if his file shows no exam since the award, a review can appear in his mailbox any month, and the outcome of that one appointment carries his whole household income. He is not doing anything wrong. He simply holds the kind of 100% that stays on the VA's radar, and knowing that changes how carefully he documents every appointment and every bad week. Second kind is TDIU, and this one wears a mask because the deposit looks identical. TDIU means the VA pays you at the 100% rate, even though your combined rating is lower, maybe 70%, maybe 80%, because your service-connected conditions make you unable to hold substantially gainful work. Same money every month, completely different foundation. TDIU rests on your employment situation, which means it carries a risk none of the other kinds have. If you go back to steady, substantial work, that foundation cracks. The VA can also ask you to verify your employment status, and ignoring that paperwork can put the whole thing in motion. A TDIU veteran who does not know he is a TDIU veteran, who thinks he simply has 100%, can walk into trouble with a part-time job that a scheduler veteran could take without any risk at all. The rules do leave room. Marginal work below the poverty threshold or a protected position at a family business generally does not break TDIU, but substantially gainful employment does, and the VA sends an employment questionnaire precisely to check. Every year, veterans lose this benefit not because they got healthier, but because a form sat unopened on a kitchen counter until a deadline passed. If your award letter ever mentioned unemployability, that one word is the name of your kind, and it comes with homework the other kinds never get. The third kind is the temporary 100%. These come after surgeries, hospital stays, and during active cancer treatment, where the VA pays the full rate while you recover. Active cancer, for example, is rated at 100% while it is being treated. The key word is while. A temporary total rating has an expiration built into it from the first day, and it carries none of the long-term protections we are about to cover. When the recovery period ends or the treatment concludes, the VA reevaluates and the rating adjusts to whatever the lasting damage supports. There's nothing wrong with the temporary 100%. It exists to carry you through the hard part. The mistake is treating it like a permanent income and building your family's budget on a number that has a clock attached to it. There is one important door here, though. When cancer treatment ends, the VA rates whatever the disease and the treatment left behind, and those residuals can be serious enough to support a high permanent rating of their own. The veterans who come out of a temporary 100% in the strongest position are the ones who documented every lasting effect during recovery instead of quietly letting the rating fall wherever the VA's single exam decided. And the fourth kind is the one everybody wants, permanent and total. P&T is not actually a separate rating. It is a designation the VA adds on top of a total rating. When it concludes, your condition has no real chance of improvement. Those two words change everything around your 100%. No routine future exams get scheduled. Reduction becomes something that essentially requires fraud or a clear error to justify. And the designation unlocks a second layer of family benefits. Chapter 35, education money for your spouse and kids, and CHAMPA health coverage for dependents. Same monthly deposit as a scheduler, 100%, completely different level of certainty underneath it. To make it concrete, Chapter 35 alone currently pays a dependent student $1,574 a month for school, which across a degree adds up to more than $50,000 per child, and none of it exists for a family whose veteran holds a reviewable 100% instead of the designation. Two neighbors with identical deposits and one household is quietly eligible for tens of thousands the other cannot touch. That is what those two words on a letter are worth. So the obvious question, and the whole point of this video, which one do you have? The answer is in your rating decision letter, and it takes about 1 minute to find. Pull out the decision, go past the percentage everybody stares at, and read the language around it. If you have P and T, the letter says it, usually in plain words, permanent and total, or a line stating that no future examinations are scheduled. Another giveaway sits in the benefits paragraphs. If your letter mentions eligibility for Chapter 35, dependents educational assistance, that only attaches to P and T. So that sentence is your quiet confirmation. If instead you see language about future examinations being scheduled, that is the opposite signal. The VA expects to look at you again. And if the letter mentions individual unemployability anywhere, you now know your kind too. The frustrating part is that the VA never prints a simple box that says which of the four you hold. That information is always there, but it is scattered through paragraphs written for lawyers, which is why a 1-minute read with the right checklist beats an hour of confused scrolling through forms. Log in to va.gov and download your benefit summary letter because it states your combined rating and whether you are considered permanently and totally disabled in writing in about 2 minutes. Now the protection rules, because this is where veterans at every kind of 100%, and honestly at every rating, need to know where they stand. The VA runs on time-based protections, and each birthday of your rating makes it stronger. These are worth writing down because they apply automatically, without any form, the moment your rating crosses each line. At 5 years, a rating that is held steady becomes stabilized, and the VA can no longer reduce it based on one exam showing a good day. They need evidence of sustained improvement across your full medical history. At 10 years, your service connection itself becomes protected, meaning the VA can no longer turn around and say your condition was never related to service. The percentage can still move, but the connection cannot be severed without proving fraud. And at 20 years, the strongest wall goes up. A rating that has been in place for 20 years cannot be reduced below the lowest level it held during that time, ever, for the rest of your life, unless fraud is proven. Stack those on top of a P&T designation, and you are holding what amounts to an untouchable award. Notice one detail inside the 20-year rule that catches people. It protects the lowest level you held during those years. So a rating that moved between 70% and 100% is protected at 70%, and it can still rise. The walls only stop movement downward. Time in the system only ever works for you here, which is one more reason panicking and refiling everything from scratch is usually the wrong move. One more protection almost nobody mentions, and it matters this year specifically. When the VA rewrites its rating schedule, the new, often stricter criteria cannot be used to reduce a rating you already hold. Your rating was earned under the rules that existed when it was granted, and a rulebook change alone is not improvement in your condition. With the VA actively reworking parts of the schedule right now, including the criteria for conditions as common as tinnitus and sleep apnea, that one sentence is doing quiet work for a lot of veterans who have no idea it exists. A stricter rule book tomorrow does not reach backward into a rating you earned yesterday. Reviews still have to show that your body actually improved, not that the paperwork standards got harder. Ask a free accredited representative to pull your file and tell you two things: how long each of your ratings has been in place, and whether anything in the record already supports a permanent designation. Because here's the part with real money attached. P&T is not always handed out automatically. Plenty of veterans medically qualify for it. Their conditions are never going to improve, and everyone involved knows it, but the designation was simply never applied, and they sit at a reviewable 100% for years without the certainty and without the family benefits. If your total rating comes from conditions that are static by their nature, and your file already shows years without improvement, the permanence question is worth raising. The cleanest routes are a higher level review pointing at the evidence already in your file, or simply applying for a benefit that requires P&T like CHAMFA for your dependents, which forces the VA to answer the permanence question on the record. Either path costs you nothing, changes nothing about your current payment while it runs, and the worst possible answer is the situation you are already in. So here's your 1-minute check tonight, all four kinds side by side. Find your decision letter and read past the number. Permanent and total written anywhere, or Chapter 35 eligibility mentioned, means you hold the strongest kind, and your job is simply to keep a copy of that letter safe. Language about future examinations means you hold a reviewable 100%, so count how many years your rating has held, because the 5, 10, and 20-year walls may already be standing around it. If your payment rests on being unable to work, know that you are a TDIU veteran. Treat employment decisions with care and answer every piece of VA mail about your status. And if you're 100% arrived with a surgery or a cancer diagnosis, plan for the reevaluation instead of being surprised by it, and document every lasting effect while you recover, because those pages decide where the rating settles afterward. Whichever kind you find, write the answer somewhere your spouse can find it too, because half of the family benefits in this story depend on someone knowing they exist. The four kinds pay the same dollar amount this month, and that is exactly why so few veterans ever look deeper. The difference between them only shows up on the day the VA takes a second look, and by then the veteran who knew his kind has his protections lined up, while the veteran who only knew his number is scrambling through a drawer looking for a letter he never read. Your rating took years to earn. Knowing which kind it is takes one evening. If this helped, send it to somebody you served with. Subscribe, because the rule book is long and we are going through all of it.